So I recently started watching this show, Kindred, and if you haven't watched it, you should check it out. For a number of reasons, really interesting show. It's got a little bit of this sci-fi element to it, which is a little bit, I don't necessarily love that, but the point, the important point, what that sci-fi element allows for, I think, is so. I don't know how to say this. It sounds corny to say, but like, it's so important to watch and to understand. And I think there's a lot of genius in the way the show was put together. For just a bit of context, if you haven't seen it, um, the show is centered around the black woman living today, right, in the year 2022 or whatever. Um, but she kind of like teleports back to the 1800s during the time of slavery. And, there's a lot of details as to why that happens and all that stuff. But what I think is that powerful, important part of the show is because it's the concept is that, right? Where in the first episode it starts, you have no idea of this kind of teleporting back to slavery. You're everything you see is that they ground her, they root her as a character in today. She's a woman. She lives in I think it's L.A., but I forget exactly. It doesn't matter. And it's just interactions with her family. She's out at a bar, friends. She meets a guy. All this stuff that makes you feel like okay, she lives today. And then you find out through that episode that for again various reasons she can go back to the 1800s and it kind of just appears there, and now she interacts in that world. Um, and what that does, right? Because you're grounded in her as living today. It, that genius of that concept allows you to appreciate more with so much more potency the horror and the absurdity of slavery, of what went on in the 1800s. I think it's on a plantation in Maryland is where she kind of teleports back to. Um, and just the interactions, but to look at it through the lens of her, right? A person that she lives in 2022. Her reference points, her everything she kind of thinks about and how she views the world is through that lens. So the juxtaposition, the throwing her back into the world of a plantation in the 1840s is like holy shit. Like this is crazy. And it's the quote unquote small, subtler stuff of like just the dismissiveness and the disrespect and the way that she's spoken to by, all the different white people, children, the wife, the master, right, the slave owner, the workers there, just totally disrespected. I mean, called the N word, just insulted, and it was just that's what it was, like crazy. And you could see it in her face, like as she's trying to process this of like how she wants to react the way you would in 2022. Like, who the fuck are you talking to? Like, why do you think you could talk to me like that? But in that time, it was she couldn't say anything. And it just makes you appreciate more how absurd that is and how horrible it was. And it's all of it. It gets worse, right? As you might imagine, just the things that the way that they're mistreated. There's one scene, which is an episode I just watched. I haven't finished the whole series, where the master of the plantation finds out that she knows how to read. And there's kind of a whole thing about it. And he ends up dragging her outside, ripping her clothes off, and whipping her. And the way that they show the scene is pretty horrific, frankly, but powerful. It makes you feel it. And again, you're feeling it not just, which should be enough, but not just as a human being being whipped, but somebody that's from today. And again, that same thought of like, how the fuck could this be happening? That's as she's being whipped, and just it's horrible. It's a horrible, horrible thing. You see her think like, how could this be real? How could this have actually happened? That's the point, right? That's the powerful point. It makes us remember this could have been us. This could have been me. This could have been you. This could have been anybody that was born into that. This actually happened. Somebody actually had to live with this. This isn't just something in a book or in a show, ironically, although it isn't a show, but the way that they're presenting it is to make you appreciate it for how real it was. And through the lens of somebody living today just makes it that much more tangible somehow. And I say, what I love about the show, and it's true, I do love it because it's important that we appreciate and acknowledge and accept and feel what that was as best as we can, especially me, somebody like me to say that. But we should all feel that. We should all know how horrific that was. So I love that aspect of it. I love that it allows us to do that. And I, I, I love the fact that we should be facing that. We should be exploring it. We should be trying to understand, how did that happen? How could that person actually do that to somebody else? All these questions that for various reasons we take for granted. We dismiss, well, it was a different time then, or it was, yeah, they were horrible, or what. But no. I need to know, actually, as a human being living on this planet, how is it possible that somebody else can inflict that sort of torture and suffering on somebody else? And the way this show, at least for me personally, forces me to face those things and to feel those things, not just conceptually, not just theoretically, but actually feel them in a way that I don't think would have happened if not for the concept and how they approach the show. That idea of taking somebody from today and placing them back in that. I just think it really, really hits home and is powerful.